Justin Trudeau recently said something. What he said, and his housing minister, Sean Fraser, was that they're going to be building more homes in Canada on federal land. And when I read that or saw that video, I was just scratching my head going, I feel like I've heard that. And if you are in that same assumption that you feel like you've heard that, where does that come from? Well, you would be correct that you have heard this before, and that's from Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre has been saying that for long time, years. Pierre Poilievre has been saying they're going to sell off federal land or give it away really cheap to developers to build more housing on federal land, as well as taking old federal buildings that are either decommissioned or not really being used and turn those into rentals or whatever. And Justin Trudeau is now taking those talking points and he's trying to rebrand the Liberal Party to make it seem as if he's come up with this brilliant idea. So if there's ever been a gotcha video of mine, this would be it. So I highly recommend you guys stick around for the full video. We're going to be taking a look at quite a few different stories. I got some stuff in America, some new developments in the Middle East, some crime statistics here in Canada, and a very disturbing video of what seems like either newcomers, immigrants, recording children at a beach in Canada. It's super disturbing. So there's a whole lot to unravel in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage everyone to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And we need to talk about protecting ourselves. Now, in previous videos, I've talked about the importance of protecting yourself, like getting water and food and a small ration of supplies in case there's a disturbance in our distribution system, especially with the ongoing developments of the railway lockdowns or strikes and what's about to happen. And I do have more of that covered in this video. But not only protecting yourself physically in person, but also protecting yourself online, which is a perfect segue into today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Private Internet Access. We have teamed up and we are offering my audience 83% off by using code SUNSHINE, which can be linked down in the description or the pinned comment below. We're living in a world of censorship, and Justin Trudeau is at the forefront of this race. Canadians are being censored left, right, and center, which is why you have to protect yourself with a VPN, such as Private Internet Access. What a VPN does is it encrypts your information so that while you're browsing online, you're going to different websites, your information, your personal data is not shared with these massive corporations. It's almost like putting a cloak over yourself. And the best possible way that I like going about this is using the cloak, such as Private Internet Access. Even when it comes to getting the news here in Canada, there's an insane level of censorship. You can't even get Canadian news on Facebook, for crying out loud. Above and beyond the news, if you want to get different content on streaming platforms such as Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, because a lot of these corporations, they geo-lock content, such as in Canada, you can only watch Canadian Netflix. But with Private Internet Access, you can bypass that and you can watch American Netflix, UK Netflix. It's really an interesting thing, and it unlocks a whole new world of content out there. The best part about it is that you're not just restricted to doing that from a computer or a tablet. You can do that from your phone, and you can have a whole lot of devices linked to your Private Internet Access account, which is incredible. Private Internet Access is not only user-friendly, it's extremely affordable, and it is the best way of saying F you to the government. You can get 83% off of Private Internet Access by using the link down in the description or the pinned comment below. Thank you, Private Internet Access, for sponsoring today's video. So it is Sunday and the polls should be updated. So who's gone up, who's gone down? We're going to take a look at that right now. You have Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party still exactly at 209 projected seats with a bottom line of 178 and a top end of 233. No movements there, and no movements either for Justin Trudeau, sitting at 75 projected seats, which means that there's no movements down here for odds of winning the most seats and odds of winning a majority government. Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative, is still sitting at 99%. So that is all looking very good. Now let's get into a little bit of international news before we kick things off with Canadian stuff. I found this video online here of hundreds of sheep who were seen walking in circles for 12 days in Mongolia. Now, there's nothing else attached to this. There's no theory why, but I just thought it was interesting, and maybe someone down below in the comments has a theory as to why there are sheep just literally walking in circles for 12 days. Maybe it's got to do with just World Economic Forum or aliens, who knows, but that's a little freaky. That's a little freaky, I will not lie. Speaking of freaky, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced that more Democrats will be teaming up with Donald Trump. And if you haven't been caught up to speed, Trump just gave a speech recently, and RFK Jr. did come on stage and say that he's joining Donald Trump. So he's dropped out of the race. So right now you have Kamala versus Trump. Kamala's got her team of woke people, and Trump has RFK Jr., JD Vance, and Elon Musk on his side. So it's a pretty powerhouse team, but let's take a look at what he has to say in this very short video.
President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining his campaign, and I want to make America healthy again, and so does President Trump.
So you've got Make America Great Again and Make America Healthy Again. It just seems like there's a super powerhouse team, like the Avengers, that are working for the Republicans, are teaming up with, all different political backgrounds to unite the country and potentially even unite the world. But we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. Speaking of uniting, this is certainly not uniting people. The cost of living. So his Chicago property taxes on an apartment building are going from $23,000 per year up to $128,000 per year. That is absolutely insane.
This 700 square foot one bedroom apartment will now cost Michael Markellos $17,494 in property taxes for 1 year. Markellos and his mother own this 10-unit Lincoln Park apartment complex. Last year's tax bill for all 10 units combined was $23,674. But now look at this. The same 10 units are now $128,282 this year, up 440%.
I was outraged. These are basically simple one-bedroom apartments for people, college graduates who work downtown.
And in order to compensate for those property taxes, this guy's going to have to raise his rent to over $5,000 per month for a one-bedroom apartment. Now, things are really bad here in Canada, but that might actually be the cherry on the cake for how bad things have gotten, at least for what I've seen. But I'd love to know if you guys have any horror stories of property taxes being raised or, getting a new mortgage and what that looks like. Now, let's shift things over a little bit to the Middle East. This account is a phenomenal account to follow on X. OSINT Defender says, for now, we may have just avoided a major war between Israel and Hezbollah. So from my understanding, Hezbollah said that they were going to do a strike, and they had thousands of missiles ready to go. Israel got that intelligence and launched a preemptive strike. So we've got some breakdowns of that. More importantly, we have the IDF that actually has a video. We're going to take a brief look at this, that they explain what's going on.
A short while ago, the IDF identified Hezbollah terrorist organization preparing to fire missiles, rockets towards Israeli territory. In a self-defense act to remove these threats, the IDF is striking terror targets in Lebanon from which Hezbollah was planning to launch their attacks on Israeli civilians. This follows more than 6,700 rockets, missiles, and explosive UAVs fired by Hezbollah at Israeli families, homes, and communities since October 8th.
And so there are a couple more pieces of information that I want to cover here. This was an official statement by Hezbollah announcing the beginning of their retaliation against Israel. You can find this on OSINT Defender's actual account, but it says brutal Zionist aggression on the southern suburb of Beirut, which led to the martyrdom of great jihadist leader, Mr. Fuad Shukr. May God have mercy on him and a number of honorable people, women, and children.
Escalation in the Middle East this morning. Hezbollah has fired hundreds of rockets toward Israel. The militant group confirming what it's calling phase one of its retaliation for the killing of a top military commander last month.
Mr. President, how are the hostage talks going?
And U.S. President
thumbs up. It's so weird seeing Joe Biden on camera now. It just feels like he's been pushed aside with this coup and stuff like that. But yeah, I have completely forgotten that Joe Biden is still the president. It just feels like Kamala Harris is taking over. But anyways, we're switching over to Canadian news right now. Mr. Beast is actually in Canadian news because his new set was spotted in Toronto or near Toronto. Someone drove by and there's a massive complex that has a bunch of games that Mr. Beast is hosting for either another video on his YouTube channel or one of his YouTube channels, or a Netflix series or one of these series with these big streaming services. Then you have this post here, a screenshot of an article by the National Post shared by Wall Street Silver saying, Canada, is everything okay up there? We are worried. The court to decide if Ontario must pay for surgery to make a vagina if patient also wants to keep penis. A non-binary Ontario resident is locked in a legal battle over public funding for surgery to create a vagina while leaving the penis intact. Yep. That's our healthcare system and our court systems working together. And for anyone that says that healthcare is free in Canada, I've got a video here pulled up that actually says otherwise. No one in Canada is really bragging about free healthcare. Maybe once upon a time when our economy was thriving, but right now healthcare is not free. It's coming out of our taxes, and we have one of the highest taxes in the world. So no, it's not free. And there's also a lot of problems and flaws with our healthcare.
The wait times are insane. If you're not like on death's door, you're not going to get treatment for a lot of things. And it's not because the doctors are bad or anything like that. It's there's no money. Guys, the socialist, like universal healthcare system that Canada has in place doesn't have enough money. And the people suffer significantly.
Just to put things in perspective, me and my family, we don't have a family doctor. My wife had we had a family doctor or a doctor to go for our son who was just born on Canada Day. But that threshold of, I believe, 6 weeks has just passed. And after that 6 weeks, the doctor says, okay, you're on your own. And so we don't have a family doctor or a doctor for our newborn son. Technically, he's not considered a newborn right now, according to doctors. That's why we're left hanging. And we've been on a wait list for a family doctor for like 2 or 3 years right now. Anyone can sign up in I think it's BC or Canadian government, and you just type in a wait list thing, and it's bizarre. It's strange. So if anything happens with our 6 week or just under 2 month old son, we don't have a doctor to go to. If it's not life-threatening, then we can't go to emerge. And so we have to go to a walk-in clinic, which is a weird way for Canada to brag about free healthcare. And I'm sure there are tons of people right now that are watching this that can resonate with not having a family doctor, but just for shits and giggles. Not ha 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 ha, we're all thriving, but more ha 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 ha, we're all suffering together. Let me know down below in the comments if you have a family doctor, yes or no type of thing. Not to sound like Pierre Poilievre, but nonetheless, let's take a look at what's going on with the developments of the railway lockout. So breaking, tribunal orders rail workers back on the job, imposes arbitration. For those that aren't caught up to speed, I'm going to try and summarize things as fast as I can. We only have a couple companies that run the rail system here, right? There's CN, CPKC, and then there's Via Rail, the passenger carts. And the two rail companies that have locked all their employees out, they did so in order to avoid strikes because there's a discrepancy with, renewing contracts, how much money is being made. And then the government said, go back to work. And the rail company said, no. And the government has said, yep, we're forcing you to go back to work. Quite literally, legally, we're forcing you to go back to work. And so the rail company is saying, hey, who wants to go on a strike? That is pretty much all caught up to speed, but let's take a look at the mainstream media here and what they have to say about it.
After 3 days of uncertainty over railway service across the country, a decision tonight by Canada's Labour Board to impose unprecedented orders requested by Canada's Labour Minister. In a decision issued tonight, the Canada Industrial Relations Board concluded it does not have discretion to vary or to not implement the direction, therefore ordering employees of CN and CPKC return to work Monday, follow the terms of their previous collective agreement until a new one comes into effect, and that both sides move forward with binding arbitration.
We're extremely disappointed. They acted on a gutless and cowardly referral by the federal labor minister to break a strike at the first sign of some supply chain disruptions.
The union, representing more than 9,000 railway employees, says it will adhere to the board's ruling, but it plans to appeal the decision in court.
Any federally regulated worker now who has a job in the supply chain has now lost bargaining power, has now lost the ability to negotiate higher wages, better working conditions, and to protect what they have.
The move ends a work stoppage at CPKC and voids a strike notice issued to CN, where trains had been moving again since Friday.
We are satisfied that this ends the labor conflict and that we can get back to our primary focus, something we do every day, which is to power the economy.
But today's decision still comes after 3 days without full service on Canada's railway system, which many industries rely on.
So the government or the mainstream media has broken down, and I've covered this, or I've shown this in a previous video when it was first announced, of what the disruption what the disruption would look like in our supply chain. And if you want the regular guy, regular Joe answer, it would mean that we're fucked, like absolutely incredibly, like we've never seen before. We super duper heavily rely on our rail system. And if they actually go on strike for an extended period of time, shelves are empty, which is why I've been saying, if you haven't noticed, hey, you might want to grab an extra can or two of beans every time you go to the grocery store, and maybe those jugs of water just in case something happens, because we don't really know, especially if you don't live in a major city and you live out in a smaller community or a really small community. We don't know how this is going to go. No one does. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to prepare yourself. Anyways, moving on to some kind of crime related things here. There's a car that crashed into a building in Toronto. Not really unusual, I guess, sort of now in Toronto, because crime is absolutely insane. But let's take a look here. Someone's driving by, you got the cops, you got the ambulance, you got the fire truck, and yep, there's a car in a building. Kind of crazy, but not totally surprising considering all of the other stuff that's coming out of Toronto, such as this. Toronto police are looking for a motorcyclist who they say struck and seriously injured an officer. Yeah, that's obviously not good. And then you have this video here, which has made its rounds. Now, this has 2.3 million views in less than 24 hours at the time of this recording. Absolutely insane. Ontario, a man confronts group that he claims is filming his daughter at the beach. Now, as a father of two, it's like, how would you actually, don't even describe how you would handle this, because I feel like those comments would get very much out of hand. But I feel like a lot of people would just go right to the gloves are off, and that's not okay. And they're check to make sure that they have a health card, to make sure that they could at least get their health looked after, because there would probably be some consequences, as I feel how a lot of people would want to handle that, and I guess rightfully so.
What are we doing, guys? Yeah? Just enjoying what?
Here for picnic.
Picnic?
Yeah.
Where's your picnic stuff, guys?
In the car.
In the car.
Yeah.
Right. You're here for a picnic?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. I'm looking at you. The guy with the camera? Yeah, you right there. Yeah, can I see the videos?
Yeah.
Show me the videos.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. Are you deleting them right now?
Yeah,
Is that what you're doing, guys?
This is private. Why? What do you think we were?
You know exactly what you're doing. You're creeping all the girls here. I watched you guys. I watched this guy. I watched him watching my daughters with his camera.
Okay, sorry.
No. You don't come to a beach and videotape the girls. You know exactly. You can delete them all you want, but I got you guys on film now. Okay?
Sorry, this is...
No.
Right. And so let me know if that was, in your mind, an appropriate answer to what is being accused here, or if there should have been a different level of escalation or de-escalation. I think that is beyond creepy, and you shouldn't be recording. In this post here, it says, man confronts group he claims is filming his daughter at the beach. Yeah, that would piss anybody off, even if you're not a parent. Absolutely creepy. And yeah, I mean, they deserve to be, if that's the case, they deserve the law to get involved and yeah, get punished appropriately. Nonetheless, let's move on to some other triggering news in a different sort of emotion. Anthony Fauci was hospitalized in West Nile virus, with West Nile virus, and is now recovering at home, a spokesperson says. So why are we talking about Anthony Fauci and West Nile virus? Well, this is started up just coincidentally at the exact same time that this is happening. You have a new vaccine that's being pushed. Global News is saying just a few years after the mRNA vaccines proved their efficiency against the coof, scientists are now turning their attention to lung cancer. So now the claim is that someone somewhere, Canada or scientists, have figured out a combination of mRNA vaccines that could target lung cancer. And now shifting to a massive plagiarism-ish type of story, we're taking a look at Justin Trudeau. So his post here earlier this morning has almost 500,000 views. And he's saying, we've got land. We've got lots of houses to build. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, I'm not going to play the video because there's some music in there, and I don't want to hear Justin Trudeau talk. But throughout the video, he says that they want to build housing on federal land. They're going to sell off land, and they're going to build housing because they have so much land. The Crown, the federal government owns 98% of Canada is pretty much federal land, if I'm not mistaken. My comment here is vote for me because I'll fix the problem that I've created. Quoting Justin Trudeau, right? You've had 9 years and you never mentioned this until now. Coincidentally, Pierre's housing plan is to build on federal land and convert federal buildings into rentals. You, sir, are what we call a fucking moron. And so I just did a little bit of search after, of course, seeing Sean Fraser at the exact same time post a very similar video with the exact same rhetoric as Justin Trudeau. I did a little bit of research, and here's what I found. Literally 364 or 65 or 66 days ago, published August 24th, 2023. Pierre Poilievre, and this is by CTV, so all the left-leaning liberals cannot deny this. Pierre Poilievre went and did a press conference. And in that press conference, Poilievre says his plan to build more housing in Canada will include selling off 6,000 federal buildings and, in quotation marks, thousands of acres of federal land. And that's just in 2023. Now, you could go on Reddit even 5 months ago, and you could see Pierre Poilievre promises to build homes. And I did a little search for federal land, and right here, a user admits he's given his plan: sell off cheaply or give away federal land to developers with no oversight or restrictions on what they can build. Of course, federal land, federal land, federal land. And here, even a video of Global News where Poilievre suggests selling federal land, removing bureaucracies that stop home building. August 23rd, 2023. Let's take a look at this quick little video.
Solutions are you offering that the Prime Minister isn't?
I'm basically proposing to do the exact opposite of everything he's done on this file. He doubled housing costs. When I was housing minister, housing cost half as much. How are we going to do it? We're going to balance the budget to bring down inflation and interest rates on mortgages. We're going to remove the massive bureaucracy that adds $1.3 million to the cost of a new home in Vancouver. We're going to do what the Squamish did in that city, which is go around the city's bureaucracy to build 6,000 housing units on 10 acres of land. Why did they do that? Because they didn't have to listen to City Hall. They were freed from the bureaucracy that stops home building. We're going to sell off 6,000 acres of federal land, 6,000 buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. We're going to give the same support to the trades that we give to the professions and universities so that we can have more boots, not just more suits, to build the houses of the future. Right.
And then you also have right here this article. of liberals say Poilievre doesn't care about the housing shortage and mock his record. That's Sean Fraser, right? Who says that Pierre doesn't care about building more homes and he's just whipping up fear and anxiety in order to get elected. Yet, Sean Fraser is more than happy to copy the housing crisis solution that Pierre Poilievre has provided. And you can feel free to research this yourself. Literally, all I've done is I've went into Google and I typed in Pierre Poilievre build housing on federal land. And you're given all of these videos, all of these articles, and they just go on and on and on. So it's undeniable that Pierre Poilievre has been saying this for much longer than Justin Trudeau has been saying it. Now, what's the takeaway from this? What does this mean? Well, it doesn't mean that Justin Trudeau gets a slap on the wrist. What this means is that anyone who is going to continue to support Justin Trudeau or has been on the fence about it, but is leaning more towards, or maybe for the first time supporting Justin Trudeau, whatever it is, if you're going to vote for Trudeau and now you think that's a good plan, build more houses on federal land. We got a bunch of that land. I've never heard that. That's a great idea, Mr. Prime Minister. Now that eventually they find out that Pierre Poilievre has been saying that exact same thing for much longer, it opens up the door to more people leaving the Liberals and joining the Conservative voter base. Because if that's one priority, a decision maker, if you're voting based off of, I'm going to pick this box between these multiple different candidates because of housing, that's the factor that pushes me to check a box, right? When it comes time to do that. If that is the issue, then why not vote for the Conservatives? They've been saying it for longer. They've had more time to think about it. Surely they have a better plan in place. I mean, if they've been thinking about it for a year more than Justin Trudeau, then obviously when, it comes time to get elected and there's a swap in, who's in power, then they can just implement that plan right away, because we're still just over a year away from actually doing that election. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just funny. Haha, we see what you're doing, Justin. And I obviously am not against that idea now that Justin Trudeau is regurgitating it. It's good. It's just funny. And I think it's going to come and bite him in the ass, because if he came up with his own plan, then he could have had that talking point that was different. But because he's copying what Pierre Poilievre has been saying, if Pierre uses that to his benefit, and instead, the worst thing that Pierre, I think, could do is say, you're copying me. My plan works. What else are you copying me on that? I think that might be a bad strategy, because it might turn the issue into some sort of partisan issue. I think that there's a different strategy to take place. Hey, Liberal voters, if you think that this is a good idea, well, you should see what else we got, because I guarantee you, if Trudeau has copied this one, he's about to copy a bunch of others. From that more inviting approach, it might reshape the mindset of other Liberal voters or people that are on the fence that haven't fully made their mind up on who they want to vote for. But I would encourage the Conservative Party, at least this is from my own personal opinion, to not use it in like a super divisive way. You could maybe put a funny spin on it, because it is absolutely funny that Trudeau is copying that exact thing right now. But I think there's a strategy here, and I hope Pierre and his team use it appropriately, because it should be inviting to Liberal voters. You can't say, well, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea, because it's a phenomenal idea. That's why Pierre's come up with it. And I encourage people to look into some more policies that Pierre wants to implement, because it seems like that will help solve this housing crisis and get Canada back on track, which is a massive, massive issue. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. What strategy here is there for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party to use this to their benefits? I definitely think that there is one, especially that they're going back into Parliament very, very soon to debate face-to-face Pierre and Trudeau. And I think there's going to be some awesome gotcha moments when that happens surrounding this particular plagiarism topic. That's where we're going to end this video, ladies and gentlemen. Love to know what you guys think about any topics that were covered. And on your way out, I would like to encourage you guys to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.